If you're feeling a little unsure right now, maybe even slightly overwhelmed, that's normal. Anytime we learn something new about feeding, especially when it challenges what we thought was safe, the nervous system wants to jump straight to urgency. This video isn't about urgency, and it's definitely not about fear. It's about grounding back into what normal feeding actually looks like, biologically, historically, and practically. So if your brain is spinning a bit after everything you just learned, let's slow this all the way down and zoom out. Because what we're talking about today isn't a trend or a protocol. It's not ethics, it's just normal. Here's the first thing to anchor into. Rotation didn't come from the raw feeding world. It didn't come from nutrition influencers, and it didn't come from optimization culture. Rotation comes from biology. Dogs evolved eating different prey over time. Not every meal, not randomly, but seasonally and environmentally. No mammal on this planet eats the exact same protein from the exact same source indefinitely. Prey availability changes, seasons change, ecosystems shift. Variation is not a strategy, it's the default setting. So when we talk about rotating proteins, we're not talking about doing something extra or advanced. We're talking about returning to baseline mammal biology. That's why the most important reframe here is this. Rotation isn't a raw idea, it's a mammal idea, and it's not about optimization, it's not about perfection, it's about normal exposure patterns over time. Now let's talk about what happens when diets don't rotate calmly without alarm. When a dog is exposed to the same protein over and over and over for long periods of time, few slow, predictable things can happen. First, repeated exposure increases the likelihood of sensitivity, not overnight, not dramatically, gradually. Second, narrow diet creates nutritional gaps, not deficiencies that scream, but imbalances that whisper. And third, the gut microbiome tends to lose diversity when inputs never change. This is why so many pet parents say things like they ate this food for years and they did great until suddenly they didn't. It's why allergies often feel like they come out of nowhere, and why dogs can tolerate a food until they can't. And this part matters. This isn't about one bad ingredient, it's about lack of diversity over time. That framing prevents ingredient which obsessive elimination diets. Protein paranoia. Rotation isn't a reaction to failure, it's how we prevent fragility in the first place. This is where people tend to overthink. So we're going to simplify it. There is no single correct rotation schedule, but there is general biological norm. For most healthy dogs, weekly rotation works beautifully. Rotate by protein families, not novelty chasing. You're aiming for balance over time, not excitement per meal. For dogs with IBD, severe sensitivities, or fragile guts, rotation should be slower. Think multi-week or monthly changes. Stability comes first, then diversity layered in gently. Here's the anchor principle. Consistency in balance, variety in proteins. You don't need a perfect schedule. You just want to avoid the extreme of never rotating at all. Let's remove even more pressure. You don't need 10 to 12 proteins, novelty every meal, constant stimulation, and you absolutely do not need to collect proteins like Pokemon. What you need is intentional diversity over time. Enough looks like a small, thoughtful rotation across weeks or months. 4 to 5 familiar proteins cycling back in. Variety that builds resilience, not stress. This is not about performance. It's not about maximizing. This is about resilience. A resilient system doesn't need constant novelty. It just needs options. This is where everything connects. When we zoom out, safety isn't about one perfect protein or one perfect brand or one perfect blend, one perfectly controlled input, in other words. Safety is long-term resilience. It's gut adaptability. It's reduced dependence on any single food source. It's flexibility when life changes or supply chain change or needs to change. That's why this line matters. A resilient diet does not depend on one protein, one brand, or one source. Flexibility is safety. Diversity is shock absorption, and when rotation is normal, there is nothing fragile to protect. If you want to see how we structure rotation simply without stress or overcomplication, the next video walks through exactly that. This is what we aim for when we build meals. Calm, resilient, adaptable systems that support dogs long term. No urgency, no fear, just normal biology applied thoughtfully. So if anything from this conversation felt unsettling at first, let this be re-anchor. Nothing here is fragile. Nothing here needs fixing urgently. Rotation isn't about doing more. It's about trusting biology to do what it's always done best when we stop forcing sameness. calm inputs, thoughtful diversity, long-term resilience. That's the goal.